The dojo smelled faintly of sweat, rubber mats, and determination. Sunlight filtered in through tall windows, streaking across the room like golden blades, illuminating the dust particles that floated in the air. The sound of bodies hitting mats echoed rhythmically, slaps, thuds, grunts, like a war drum reminding everyone here of the struggle between strength and weakness, fear and courage. At the center of this storm stood Mia, a 10-year-old girl, her small frame swallowed by her crisp white gi. The sleeves hung a little long on her wrists, her brown belt tied carefully by hands that trembled slightly, not with fear, but with anticipation. Her ponytail swung across her shoulder as she shifted from foot to foot, her eyes steady, never breaking their gaze. Across from her was Jason. 16 years old, already a local jiu-jitsu champion, his gi dark blue, decorated with patches of victories earned. He was taller by a head and built like a wall, broad-shouldered and confident. He smirked at the sight of Mia, his expression somewhere between amusement and annoyance. "She's too small," whispered one of the older kids at the edge of the mat. "This isn't fair to her," a parent muttered. Jason's friend laughed. "This will be over in seconds." The laughter cut sharp into the air, but Mia didn't flinch. She had heard it all before: too small, too weak, too fragile. But beneath that fragile frame was something no one in that room could measure, a heart burning with quiet defiance. The instructor, his voice gruff, raised his hand. "Begin." The room fell silent, breaths held. Jason lunged first, lightning fast despite his size. His hand shot forward, aiming to grip Mia's collar. The crowd gasped at the speed, sure it would be over. But Mia bent low, her body slipping under his arm like water slipping past a stone. She pivoted, her bare feet gliding across the mat. Jason stumbled, caught off guard. He came at her again, stronger this time, muscles tense, face flushed with irritation. He shoved, reached, grabbed, but every move met air. Mia's body flowed with precision, duck, pivot, sidestep, like a dancer who had rehearsed this choreography 1,000 times in silence. And then it happened. Jason lunged, overextending just slightly. Mia dropped low, hooked her leg behind his, and twisted with all her weight. The thud of his body slamming into the mat shook the room. A stunned silence followed. Before Jason could react, Mia was already moving. She shifted like lightning, her small arms wrapping around his neck in a perfect chokehold. His eyes widened as panic set in. His hands clawed at her grip, his body twisting desperately. But Mia's technique was flawless. One tap, then another. Jason had submitted. The crowd erupted, some in cheers, some in disbelief. The same voices that doubted her now stood frozen. The boy who had been untouchable, the teen champion, had been defeated by a girl half his age, half his size. But Mia didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She simply stood up, adjusted her gi, and bowed respectfully. Her face was calm, her eyes steady. For her, this wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving to herself that she belonged. Before I carry you deeper into Mia's journey, let me pause to remind you, if stories like this move you, if you believe in the power of resilience and the courage of underdogs, then this is where you belong. Subscribe to SoulTouch Stories, because every week, we bring you stories that aren't just told, they're felt. Now, back to Mia. Her victory that day wasn't an accident. It was born of sacrifice, struggle, and a relentless will that had been forged over years. Mia hadn't always been confident. In school, she was the quiet girl, the one sitting in the back row, doodling in notebooks. Trying not to draw attention. She was small for her age, her voice soft. Bigger kids teased her, calling her mouse or feather. She never fought back. Instead, she went home with her shoulders slumped, her heart heavy. Her mother, a single parent, noticed. She had seen her daughter's spark dimming. One evening, she gently asked, "Mia, do you want to try something new? Maybe a sport?" Mia shook her head at first. Sports were for the big kids. But her mom insisted, and one Saturday morning, they walked into the dojo. The walls were lined with trophies, the air filled with the sharp sounds of training. At first, Mia wanted to run. But then she watched as smaller kids, even younger than her, flipped bigger ones onto the mats. She was hooked. Training wasn't easy. Her arms ached, her legs bruised, and many times she felt like giving up. Bigger kids would pin her down, and she'd leave the dojo with tears stinging her eyes. Maybe they're right, she whispered to herself one night. Maybe I am too small. But her coach saw something in her. Mia, he told her, kneeling so his eyes met hers, Jiu-Jitsu is not about being the strongest. It's about being the smartest. You don't need size. You need patience, timing, and heart. And you, little warrior, have all three. Those words became her fuel. She trained every morning before school, her mother quietly packing her GI into her bag. She stayed after class, practicing the same moves over and over until they became second nature. Her mother worked double shifts to pay for lessons, often eating less so Mia never missed a class. They didn't have much, but what they did have, they poured into Mia's dream. And slowly, the whispers of, "too small," began to fade, not because people stopped saying them, but because Mia stopped listening. The match against Jason, the team champion, wasn't just a random challenge. It was a test set by her coach. Jason had been undefeated in the dojo for months. He was strong, skilled, and arrogant. He needed humility. Mia needed belief. That day, both got what they needed. After Jason's defeat, the dojo changed. Kids who had once ignored Mia began to look at her differently. Parents pointed her out to their children, saying, "See that girl? That's what hard work looks like." Even Jason himself, though humiliated, couldn't deny the respect she had earned. For weeks, he avoided her. But one evening, as the class ended, he approached quietly. "You're good," he muttered, his pride still raw. Mia smiled, not triumphantly but kindly. "You're good too. Want to train together?" That simple exchange began an unlikely friendship. Jason started to help her, pushing her harder, while also learning from her patience and calmness. He stopped underestimating people, stopped judging by size. And Mia gained not just a rival, but a partner in growth. Months later, Mia entered her first big tournament. The stadium was packed, lights glaring, mats stretching endlessly. She felt the weight of hundreds of eyes on her. Her stomach twisted in knots. "I don't belong here," she thought. But then she remembered her coach's words. She remembered her mother's sacrifices. She remembered Jason's respect. She stepped onto the mat, bowed, and fought. Every opponent was bigger, stronger, more experienced. But Mia fought with precision. She lost some matches, won others, but never gave up. And when she stood on the podium, a medal gleaming around her neck, her mother's eyes were full of tears, not of sadness, but of pride. For Mia, the medal wasn't the victory. The real victory was standing tall in a world that had told her she was too small to matter. If Mia's story touched you, if you felt her courage spark something in your own heart, I invite you to like, comment, and subscribe to SoulTouch Stories. Because every share, every click, helps stories like hers reach people who might need to hear them most. Years passed. Mia kept training, kept growing. She lost matches, she won others, but the size of her body never again defined the size of her spirit. And one day, as she coached younger children on the mat, a little girl tugged at her sleeve. "They said I'm too little," the child whispered. Mia smiled, kneeling so their eyes met. "Good," she said softly. "Then you'll surprise them, just like I did." And in that moment, Mia realized something powerful. Her greatest victory wasn't the day she submitted Jason, or the medals that came later. Her greatest victory was becoming the proof that no one is ever too small to rise, to fight, and to win. So if the world tells you you're too weak, too small, too late, remember Mia. Remember the little warrior who turned doubt into discipline, who silenced laughter with determination, who carried not just her body, but her spirit, onto the mat. Because sometimes, the smallest fighter carries the loudest roar. And maybe, just maybe, that roar is waiting inside you.